Ash is confused, but Gladion just says that he would like to battle, and at least make sure he and his Pokemon are benefiting from their time together. Ash thinks about it, and then agrees, but says that they won't take the battles too far, something Gladion agrees to. As the pair make some distance, Gladion calls his first Pokemon out, an Eevee, while Ash brings out his Munchlax. Gladion makes the first move, calling for a quick attack. Having the first move of the battle, Eevee disappears as it races forward, slamming its entire body into Munchlax. The normal type is knocked back ever so slightly, but at the command of its trainer he is quick to balance itself out and hit back with a bulldoze, lifting its stubby little feet into the air before slamming it down like a sumo wrestler into the ground. As the area around them begins to shake, Eevee can feel itself slowing down, allowing Munchlax to hit the Pokemon with a tackle, which brings Ash and Gladion to call the first match, with Gladion recalling Eevee, telling it to get some rest, while Ash calls back Munchlax, telling it did a good job. The momentary break ends as Gladion brings out Charmander, while Ash calls for his Litten. Each fire starter stares at one another as they share a friendly smile, both having become good friends over the last day. But when the feeling of battle hits them, each show off their firepower as it bursts off them brightly. From Charmander, its tail begins to erupt brightly, and for Litten, its whole body is enveloped in flame for a brief second. The heat coming off the pair is intense, but only for a few seconds. As the battle breaks out, flame charges, fire fangs, metal cores, and flamethrowers are fired off and colliding, with Ash soon learning Charmander's sheer strength might be higher than his Litten's. So, the champion student starts playing more defensively. Ash calls for Litten to start going all out. The cat nods as it begins to almost dance around the battlefield, avoiding being hit by flamethrowers, throwing Charmander and its trainer off. As Litten runs around avoiding any attack coming towards it, it soon turns its body to hit Charmander with Flame Charge, while Gladion calls out for a Metal Claw. With both attacks colliding, however, Charmander is the one who comes out victorious in raw physical strength, clearly being a bit stronger than Litten, having knocked it on its back. The Fire Cat pulls itself up, as with Ash and Gladion being able to see that both Pokemon are pretty exhausted after their short encounter, so they decide to call the match there, giving the point to Gladion. Each Pokemon is recalled, and Ash shouts out asking if Gladion has more Pokemon. Gladion nods his head before his eyes widen, in shock, having realised that his two most reliable Pokemon are down, and his hands runs to his chest where he can feel a bump of a Pokeball. He knows he can't use this mod, which means his only other choice is something he doesn't really want to do. So, as Ash brings out his Execute, Gladion tries to think of a way to get out of this fight, but seeing the Execute out on the battlefield, he knows he has to battle. So, almost flustered, Gladion calls out Clefairy. The Pokemon comes out dancing around with a bright smile, making Gladion turn slightly red. Ash sees the Pokemon and gets ready to battle, and Gladion clearly looks slightly embarrassed still, but as Ash uses this to his advantage, calling for a Bullet Seed from his Grass type, it unleashes a barrage of seeds straight towards Clefairy, who takes all the attacks before falling to the floor crying. Both Ash and Executor feel terrible, and are slightly confused. Execute hops forwards trying to comfort the Pokemon, while Ash asks Gladion if they should end the battle, not wanting to make Clefairy upset or hurt it anymore, looking up to see Gladion, but last time he checked the trainer looked really embarrassed. However, now Gladion looks really calm, almost as if he's planning something. But before Ash can even figure out what's going on, Executor gives Clefairy a small nudge to see if it's okay. However, it suddenly feels like it has gotten weaker in some way, as Gladion calls for Clefairy to stop using Fake Tears and hit back with a disarming voice. An evil look appears on Clefairy's face as it starts singing a twisted melody which hits Execute hard, clearly dealing a lot of damage. As the small fairy Pokemon chuckles maniacally, Ash is stunned silent before he looks at Gladion, who is still slightly red in the cheeks but holds a confident smile. The pair share a nod and stop the fight, with Gladion having won the 3-on-3. As Ash tells Execute it fought well, while Clefairy looks at Ash with a scary face, making the kid slightly nervous before it starts dancing around again, making Ash laugh to try and avoid feeling uncomfortable. As Gladion recalls the Pokemon, he thanks it before turning to the camp, walking back towards his tent. While Ash shouts out saying good match, Gladion simply limps towards his tent, lifting his hand up as if agreeing, before disappearing back into his tent. Ash finds this ever so slightly weird, but spends the rest of his day doing his normal training routine, only stopping to eat or check in on Gladion, who spends most of his time in his tent, only coming out to eat when Ash does. However, at the end of the day, the pair have another battle, with it ending in a tie this time, before the pair sit down and eat for the night. Ash, like normal, sits talking to Gladion, who stays quiet, only giving one-word answers. But Ash is fine with this, just talking about the battle they shared earlier, something which Gladion is also happy to give a little bit of input about. With Gladion even asking about the way Lytton moves during the fight, leading to Ash chuckling, explaining that Lytton likes being flashy. He likes doing flips, poses, backflips, all of the sorts. And when he lands a super effective hit or a solid hit, he really has to emphasise it. And at first he had tried to fight against it, stopping Lytton fighting like this. However, he learnt that by embracing it, it actually makes it harder for his opponents, as most people have no idea what's going on, and they're working to make it their own specialised fighting style. Gladion can see the logic in this, having slightly been taken aback by the Firecat's movements, and it did make it much harder to hit, wondering if he can do something like that with Clefairy. However, he knows the Twisted Pokemon likes its current way of fighting, of deceiving its opponent. He'll have to think about it a little bit, but does keep this in the back of his mind. And as the pair talk through the battle a couple more times, eventually they decide to call it a night. With Ash realising that Gladion has actually taken some food from his plate into his tent, he doesn't think too much of it as he climbs into his own tent, falling asleep with Lytton on his chest like always. However, deep into the night, Ash is awakened by the sound of movement outside his tent. He's about to check outside his tent when he can hear someone talking. No, he can hear Gladion's voice. It's very quiet, but he can hear it if he listens hard. He hears, "Please just eat and stay calm." Ash is confused, looking outside of his tent to see Gladion being lit lightly from the tail of Charmander, standing a few feet away from camp, while his Eevee stands on guard at his feet, growling. Ash is confused at what's going on until he sees Gladion put a plate on the ground, telling something to eat as it needs its strength. A monstrous grunt is heard as Gladion and his team all jump into a stance, getting ready for a fight, before a creature moves its head into the light of Charmander's tail, showing Ash a weird helmeted creature eating food off the plate Gladion had took to his room. Gladion takes a few steps backwards, speaking to the creature. Ash thinks of calling out to the trainer, seeing if everything's alright. However, something inside Ash tells him to be quiet. As Ash watches the monstrous mon eat the food he had prepared a few hours ago, you can see Gladion is clearly on edge and really nervous. But Gladion sits speaking to the creature. Ash can't really hear what's being said, as he tries his hardest, with it being soft and mumbled, only hearing sorry and asking if everything's alright. But he does hear a name brought up alongside it, something about a girl called Lily. Ash remembers hearing Gladion say that name before while he was unconscious the other day, and now Ash finds himself wondering, who is Lily? And more importantly, who's that Pokemon? He has never seen anything like it before. But before he can think too much more on it, he can see the creature starts growling as he uses his weird shaped head to push the plate back towards Gladion, hitting the trainer in the foot. As it begins to growl in a low tone, almost signalling it's going to fight, Ash moves to stick his head out more, grabbing the Pokeball of Munchlax and getting Lytton ready to battle. With the plate completely licked clean, a second goes by with the low growl filling the air. Gladion tells it to calm down, trying to plead to this creature, but the Pokemon springs forward, going to attack Gladion, but the trainer is quick to recall them on and put it in its Pokeball. The sudden motion of the creature did cause Gladion to stumble backwards, however, and now he's on his back, breathing in, trying to catch his breath and trying to get his heart rate down. Ash, having watched this from a distance, wants to go help, but instead stops himself, not wanting to let Gladion know he was eavesdropping. Instead, he sees both Charmander and Eevee walk towards their trainer, checking in on him. Gladion just nods, stroking both of his Pokemon, before he stands and walks back towards his tent, calling it a night. Before Gladion can spot him, Ash quickly tucks his head back into his tent, as he sits down trying to figure out who that Pokemon was. He's never seen anything like it, and he even spends a few hours typing the little bit of a description he has on the Pokemon into his Pokédex, trying to see if he can figure anything out. But having not seen much of the Pokemon thanks to it being mainly hidden in the shadows, after an hour of trying and getting no results, he decides to get some sleep, deciding he should try to get close to Gladion, as he thinks he might be someone who needs help. As the next day rolls around, Ash finds himself trying to talk to Gladion, even if it's only one word response. He's trying to get close to the boy as much as possible, wanting to figure out what's going on, even inviting Gladion to take part in some practice battles, something Gladion agrees to do. The pair spend most of the day training with one another before calling it a day and sharing a nighttime meal. Like the night before, Ash tries to speak to Gladion to try and learn anything about him, but Gladion never delves too deep about himself, only giving very vague or one-worded answers. And once Gladion starts heading to bed, Ash notices the boy taking a share of his meal to his bedroom once again. Ash decides not to speak up about it, instead just leaving Gladion to do his thing. This time, however, when Ash goes to his tent for the night as well, he stays up, waiting to see if Gladion will feed that Pokemon again, wanting to learn more about their relationship, beyond just trainer and Pokemon. With midnight fast approaching, Ash can feel himself slipping into a deep sleep, but when the sound of footprints pass by his tent, Ash knows Gladion, or at least he's hoping is Gladion, is up and about, so he pokes his head out, spotting a trainer heading to the same clearing as the night before, watching him bring out both Eevee and Charmander, both getting ready to fight and standing on guard for something. A Gladion pulls out a Pokeball Ash has never seen before. Looking slightly closer, you can tell that this Pokeball is very weird. It's blue with some sort of yellow cross on it. Ash knew there were different Pokeballs out there, but he's never seen anything quite like this. Gladion chucks the ball, revealing the same creature from the night before. However, due to the night being a bit brighter and the clouds not being as heavy, Ash is able to see a little bit more of the creature, getting a better look at its weird head or helmet or whatever it is, also spotting something which looks like talons. He isn't really sure what this Pokemon is. It's strange, and that's for sure. As Ash watches for a few seconds as the Mon begins to crouch down, almost getting ready to pounce, Gladion places down the plate on the ground and pushes it towards the creature, saying to it, "Please just eat your food." The creature stands from its crouch and begins to eat its food as if a loyal dog. Gladion holds the strange ball in his hand while both his Pokemon sit on standby. Gladion sits speaking to the creature still, just wanting to see how it is, making general quick chit-chat, and after a few minutes the monster has finished eating the food off the plate. Once more it gets ready to fight, but this time Gladion is quick to recall them on, before he heads off to bed. Ash finds everything about this really weird, so once again tries to use the Dex to find anything he can about the Pokemon. Having a bit of a better description, he tries putting some more information in. However, this yields no results, and instead just leaves Ash wondering more. Now realising that he won't be able to fill in the blanks, he will have to scan the Pokemon. But to scan it, he's going to have to get a bit closer to do so. So he's going to wait until he gets a good opportunity to do so. And once he has it, he's going to try and figure out what this Pokemon is. A few days begin to pass by in the flash of an eye. Gladion and Ash spend most of their time training together, allowing all of their Pokemon to get some good experience, even allowing some of them to learn or master some moves. When the pair aren't training, they are taking care of the Pokemon, cooking food, or Ash is tending to Gladion's wounds, which have gotten much better in the few days they've been around one another. Gladion at first found all of Ash's caring too slightly annoying, but actually ends up starting to enjoy it. And when night drops, Gladion still heads off to feed his monstrous Mon, without realising Ash has been watching him every time. Ash has watched Gladion have a few close encounters with the Pokemon, almost getting attacked by the beast, but each time either his Pokemon defend him or Gladion manages to recall the beast before any damage is done. Soon a week has passed, and Ash knows he needs to start making his way to Celadon City to make his deal with Kukui happen, and with Gladion's wounds mostly recovered, he knows he won't be around much longer. So he plans to learn all he can about that Pokemon tonight, deciding to scan it with his Pokédex when Gladion feeds it. So after going about their normal routine throughout the day of training, eating and talking, Ash and Gladion once again call it a night, and with the moon at its highest, Ash waits until he hears Gladion up and around, which to him is the signal of the beginning of his stealth mission. As he waits for Gladion to bring out his Pokemon, he grabs his Pokédex, recalls Litten and starts making his way closer to where Gladion has been feeding them on, so he can scan it. While Ash sneaks his way over, Gladion has a plate of food put on the ground already for his Pokemon. He lets out a sigh before summoning them on, which comes out on edge and ready to battle like always. However, once spotting the food, it sits down and begins to eat, while Gladion once again starts speaking to it like always. Meanwhile, Ash is sneaking towards the Pokemon ever so slightly, getting as close as he possibly can, before soon he gets a clear view on them on. It looks like nothing he's ever seen before. It looks almost like a hybrid of multiple different Pokemon. It has talons for front legs, a fish tail, a helmet on its head and a dog-like set of back legs. Having finally had a better look at it, he has no idea what this Pokemon is. He's not even sure if it's actually a Pokemon, or if it's even real. But now, feeling close enough, the boy pulls out his Dex. With the beast distracted by its food, Ash pulls out his Pokédex, scanning it. It scans for a few seconds, taking time to try and gather all the information on any Pokemon it has ever seen, before announcing loudly that the Pokemon is not recognised. Ash doesn't have time to take this information in, however, as the Beast Pokemon and Gladion have both heard the Dex, looking to see Ash poorly hidden behind Gladion's tent. Gladion at first looks annoyed and then worried. He looks back to the Mon and shouts out to it to wait a second as he is a friend, but it's too late, as the monstrous Mon jumps forward, claws extended and cutting through Gladion's tent, aiming for Ash's head. The Pallet Town native hardly dodges the attack with a roll, as Gladion once again tries to calm the creature down, asking for it to take a second and breathe, but the Gladion's voice is just cut out by the unknown Pokemon letting out a crazed roar which cuts through the entire forest, causing any Pokemon nearby or sleeping to begin to retreat from the area. As the beast of a Pokemon begins to gather a hurricane of energy around its horn, it flings the attack forward, turning it into an air slash. Ash is about to be hit by the attack when a burst of flames stops the attack from hitting him. Ash looks down to see Charmander having defended him from the air slash. Looking to his left he sees Gladion, who looks annoyed at Ash, but stops asking if he's alright. The Cantonian trainer nods, and Gladion turns towards Charmander and Eevee, calling for a quick attack and Metal Claw. Both Pokemon respond by racing forward, keeping the monstrous Mon at bay for a few seconds. Ash asks what the Pokemon is, and Gladion scowls a bit, before explaining that the Pokemon is Type Null. It's his Pokemon. Looking at Ash, he tells him he should leave, thanking him for all of his help, but he doesn't want anyone getting hurt by Null. Ash looks at the talons of the Mon, then remembers back to when he found Gladion, asking if this Pokemon is the one which gave him and his Pokemon all those injuries. Gladion goes silent, not responding, but this gives Ash the answer he needs. Ash then asks what the type of the Pokemon is. Gladion looks confused, but Ash just tells him he won't leave him here to get hurt, instead he will help him out. Gladion goes to speak, but Charmander is hit by a takedown attack, sending him flying back into Gladion's arms, the trainer just managing to catch the small fire lizard, who was being knocked out. Gladion just responds that Null is a normal type. Ash nods his head, grabbing 2 Pokeballs, while Gladion shouts out for Eevee to come back while recalling Charmander, grabbing Clefairy's Pokeball, bringing out the small fairy, telling Ash they just need to distract it, and that's when they'll catch him off guard. Ash nods, throwing the Pokeballs at both Litten and Execute. As the 4 Pokemon stare down the raging beast, Ash calls for a Fake Out and Bullet Seed, while Gladion gives a quick call for a Quick Attack and Disarming Voice. As each Pokemon jumps into action, Litten and Eevee race forward towards the beast, while Clefairy and Execute give covering fire. The barrage of bullets and Clefairy's distorted singing hit Type Null at the same time, causing the Pokemon to stop moving ever so slightly, allowing both Eevee and Litten to connect with their attacks. Eevee slamming its body into Type Null's, while Litten slaps its paws together inches in front of the helmeted Pokemon's face, then slamming its body into Type Null with a flame charge. With both Eevee and Litten having landed their hits, they begin to jump backwards, trying to gain some distance, with Litten feeling the benefit of a speed boost. Ash and Gladion go to give another command, but Null once again fires off an air slash towards Litten. Both trainers give their Pokemon orders to help them dodge, Ash telling Litten to evade using Flame Charge, while Gladion calls for a dig for Eevee to avoid the attack. Each Pokemon follows their trainer's orders, barely dodging the attacks coming towards them. With the attack having missed Litten and Eevee, the attack now races towards Clefairy and Execute. Gladion, knowing that an air slash will probably put Execute out of commission, calls for Clefairy to use a light screen to defend itself and Execute. The small fairy does so, erecting a screen of light to defend itself and Execute. Both take a lot of damage from the attack, even with its reduced damage. Type Null, seeing this, races forward, aiming to hit Execute and Clefairy with a takedown. However, Ash calls for a flame charge in an attempt to stop Null's move altogether. With Litten's small frame colliding with the monstrous frame of Type Null, the two clash for only a second before the stronger Pokemon wins out, as Litten is sent flying backwards towards Ash. The Pokemon is true to its cat-like nature as it lands on its feet, however it's clear it took a lot of damage from that. Ash shouts out asking if Litten's alright, and the small cat just gives out a growl, signalling that it's fine. Ash looks at Gladion, who commands Eevee to reappear and hit Type Null with a quick attack. Eevee follows its trainer's orders, appearing above ground and slamming its body into Type Null's, before it starts to dig itself a hole once more. Type Null, hurt and annoyed at Eevee, starts chasing towards it using another takedown attack, but both Gladion and Ash give covering fire for Eevee by calling for Executing Clefairy to use another Bullet Seed and Disarming Voice. The duo of attacks combining as they hit Null, making the creature scream out in pain. Gladion feels terrible for having to do this, but he knows it needs to be done, as he takes a few steps forward trying to get closer to the beast. Gladion shouts out to Ash, saying they only need to push it a bit more. Ash shouts out in agreement, calling for a Fire Fang of Litten. The small cat's speed, being 3 times faster than it was before, makes it over to Type Null within a few seconds, and biting into the monstrous Pokemon's legs, causes the monster to scream out in pain as flames erupt around its body. However, in retaliation, Type Null's claws glow with this green-like energy, as it slashes into Litten using an X-Scissors. Litten is hit hard by this, having been hit by 2 powerful attacks from one very powerful Pokemon. Null is able to tell that Litten is nearing its limits, so begins to run towards it, coating itself in normal type energy, getting ready to deliver a powerful takedown. Ash shouts out for Litten to dodge, but the small cat is unable to, as it finds itself on the receiving end of a takedown attack, knocking Litten back even further. Ash knows Litten shouldn't be able to battle anymore, going to grab his Pokeball to recall it. However, the little cat pulls itself up once again, getting ready to fight once more. The battle it had against Surge, replaying in its mind, remembering not only its loss but its tie against Raichu, remembering the loss it had at Charmander. Litten doesn't want to lose anymore. He saw how much it crushed Ash when he lost to Surge. Ash watches as his Pokemon begins to stand once more, clearly more determined than it had ever been before, knowing its most recent losses have been weighing on his Pokemon's mind. Ash shouts out for Litten, and that's when a bright blue glow engulfs the Pokemon. Both Gladion and Ash watch as Litten's small size increases. A roar becomes deeper as the Pokemon reaches its middle stage, letting out a mighty roar of its new name, Torracat. Ash screams out with excitement, having been his first evolution, and it coming at such a great time. Ash tells Gladion to be ready to do whatever he needs to do, as they're ending this now. Ash tells Torracat to end this now, as the Pokemon screams out its name and begins to race forward, having become 10 times faster than it was before. As Torracat gets close, its back legs begin to glow with orange energy, and once in striking distance, the Firecat Pokemon pulls itself up to a handstand. Type Null, seeing its underbelly exposed, slashes into it with an X-Scissors. However, Torracat stands its ground. As it's hitting the underbelly, it lets out a cry of pain. However, its orange glow around its back legs brightens, as the Pokemon follows through with a cartwheel, slamming its back legs into the top of Type Null's helmet, letting out a loud crack which echoes throughout the forest. Null staggers backwards, having been hit hard by Torracat's revenge attack. Ash, seeing this, calls for Gladion to do whatever he needs to do now, and Gladion, not wasting a second, races forward, jumping at Null and wrapping his arms around it, telling the Pokemon everything's alright, and to breathe. Null fights back for a few seconds before falling to the floor, now nuzzling into its trainer. Ash watches from a distance, confused, as both Eevee and Clefairy move over towards the Pokemon, getting close enough to join in on the hug. Ash goes to speak to figure out what happened, but Torracat lets out a slight whimper, and Ash races over to his starter, who's hurt badly. He starts attending to the injuries given to the Pokemon, mostly on its underbelly. As Ash starts wrapping it in bandages, Execute hops over, holding an Oran Berry in its lead mouth, having stole it from Gladion's back, handing it over to his trainer. Ash spends a second scolding his Pokemon for stealing, before stroking the main egg's head, thanking it for not only helping him out, but also getting him the Oran Berry. The Pokemon lets out a happy chirp, as Ash recalls it, before attending to Torracat properly, feeding the Pokemon an Oran Berry, and praising it so highly for learning not only its new move, which put down that incredibly strong Pokemon, but also for fighting so bravely, and congratulating it on its evolution. Torracat purrs softly on Ash's lap, before the trainer recalls his starter, thinking that it deserves some rest. Having attended to his Pokemon, Ash walks over to Gladion. Type Null, seeing him approach, growls ever so slightly, but Gladion strokes the neck of the Pokemon, saying that Ash is a friend, with Eevee clearly seconding it with a bark of its name, causing the giant one to calm down, finally allowing Ash to ask a question he wants to know. What is this Pokemon? Gladion looks hesitant, but before he can speak, Ash explains how he saw Gladion feeding it a few nights ago, and it was clear that this Pokemon was either not in control or something was going on. He just wants to know, that's all. Gladion is more hesitant, and even angry, but for what feels like the first time, Gladion decides to speak the truth to someone. He isn't sure why Ash is the person he feels like he can trust. Maybe it's just because the kid has helped him out so much over the last few days, or maybe it's because he finally helped him to calm down Type Null, but he feels like Ash deserves an explanation. As he explains, Null is a Pokemon designed to defeat and kill Ultra Beasts, designed by my mother and her head scientist Faber. Ash's eyes widen, looking at Gladion in disbelief, trying to figure out if he's telling the truth or if this is just an elaborate lie. Gladion can see this in Ash's eyes and tells him he isn't lying. Ash stays quiet for a second before asking what an Ultra Beast is, and why his mother wanted to kill them. Gladion explains that he doesn't know all that much, but he has seen one, once, a long time ago. It tried to hurt his sister, and it would have succeeded if Null hadn't stepped in. Ash looks at the Pokemon, realising it isn't dangerous, watching it rest its head on Gladion's shoulder like a small puppy, and having Evie and Clefairy snuggling into its chest, making Ash ask about its outrage. Gladion, clearly getting annoyed by all the questions, still feels like he owes Ash an explanation, explaining that the helmet on Null's head is restricting its full power, and causing it not only a great amount of pain, but anxiety. On top of that, the Pokemon doesn't trust people, since it was humans who locked Null and its siblings away for many years. So sometimes if it feels like another person is around, or the pain and anxiety get too much, Null goes on a frenzy, and it takes a lot to calm him down. Normally just a bit of comfort, but you have to get close enough to do that, and that's very dangerous. As Ash has seen before, Ash hearing this apologises to Null for stressing it out, but he would never hurt him. He wants Null to know that. Null just nods its head ever so slightly as Ash turns to Gladion, asking if they have tried taking the helmet off, but Gladion tells Ash that they have tried everything to take the helmet off, but nothing has worked, and they can't save either of their siblings until it's at full power. Ash hearing this nods his head, saying that it's decided then. He will help remove the mask. Gladion looks confused, but Ash just smiles. Gladion tries to tell Ash he doesn't need help, but Ash just looks solemn for a second, saying that Gladion has told him that he hasn't made any progress alone, so what harm could it do having a friend help out? Besides, Ash can't live with himself knowing there are Pokemon out there suffering, and he's doing nothing to help. Gladion looks at Ash amazed, understanding why Kukui chose him to be his student. As if blinded by Ash's words, he nods slightly, accepting Ash's offer. Hearing this, the boy smiles a goofy grin, telling Gladion that they will save Null's family together. Gladion can't help but smile, and even though Type Null doesn't trust Ash, it too feels his infectious optimism take hold. However, as the pair sit smiling, Ash remembers his deal with Kukui, looking at Gladion sharing this deal with him. Gladion, hearing this, nods slightly defeated, having felt like he had made a true ally for the first time in a while. Now looks at Ash, telling him to forget all about it. Having spilled out his greatest secrets, he now can only hope Ash won't share what he had told him to anyone. Ash sits thinking for a while, ever stubborn, and soon has an idea. He tells Gladion that he should head to Celadon with him. They can train along the way, they can do the gym challenge, and he can come with him to watch Kukui's match. And then when they return from the battle after Kukui's victory, they can continue towards unlocking Null's full power, maybe even with the help of Kukui. Gladion shakes his head at this, saying he doesn't want anyone else knowing about Null. He already feels like he's put way too much faith in Ash, but he at least felt like the boy earned an explanation after everything Ash had done for him over these last few days. Ash frowns a little bit at this, and then tells Gladion that's fine. They'll just travel together and train alone. They'll work on saving Null together, no one else. Gladion once again goes to argue, but seeing the determination in Ash's eyes, agrees. Knowing this deal can always be broken. After all, the kid has to go away to watch this match that Kukui's taking part in. So if he needs to ditch him, he can ditch him then. As Ash extends his hand, offering a handshake, causing Type Null to growl once more. However, Gladion just strokes the Pokemon's neck as he accepts Ash's handshake, telling him he expects him to pull his weight. Ash just smiles, saying he always will. As the pair decide to get some sleep to sleep off the tough night battle, they begin their journey the next morning towards Celadon City. Along the trip, Ash and Gladion stop to fight any trainer they come across, while also keeping up their intense training during the night or any time they stop. During the day, Gladion refuses to not only speak to Ash normally, going back to his normal one-word answers, but also doesn't use Type Null during any battle or training, only really bringing out Type Null when nighttime rolls around. And when night comes around, he also goes back to talking to Ash much more. However, it's still not an awful lot. However, since sharing with Ash his story, the Alola region native feels like he can trust Ash somewhat, and for the first time since he has left his home many years ago, he has a friend. This leads to the pair often staying up for a while, speaking to one another, and Ash finally learning of the gym badges Gladion has acquired. The training the pair go through is intense, making sure to push each other to their utmost limits, allowing for massive growth during this time. And when they aren't training, the pair try many different ways to remove the helmet off Type Null's head. A difficult task already, made more difficult by the fact Type Null does not let Ash anywhere near him, only letting the trainer get within a foot of him. However, once there, the Pokemon is really defensive, slashing at Ash if he gets too close. And this makes removing the helmet a much more difficult task, as only Gladion can get close enough to look at the helmet. However, as the weeks go by, the synthetic Pokemon starts letting Ash's Pokemon get close, and soon, even letting Ash touch him. It's a joyous moment as Ash gives the Pokemon a big old hug, trying to show him that not all trainers are bad. And this is something that Gladion appreciates, as Gladion also knows not all trainers are bad, it's just some of them. And once Ash is able to touch and be around Type Null, they try many different methods, using force, trying to lube up the helmet to slip it off, anything they can, but nothing seems to work, neither of the trainers noticing a small crack which has appeared atop the helmet. Soon, just over a month of travel passes by in an eye, the pair having made the long trip to Celadon, and have had a blast through it. Having passed through Lavender Town and Saffron, the pair had taken an interest in battling the Saffron City Gym. However, the woman was not accepting challenges of their calibre, so they had to continue on their way. With Ash noticing something weird about Gladion, every time they stop in a town for the night to rest up, get supplies, anything, the trainer would disappear for an hour or two in the afternoon, and start patrolling the city as if looking for something. Ash found this weird, but had chalked it up to Gladion being a tourist for the most part, and he's clearly just taking in the sights of Kanto. Once making it to Celadon, however, Ash is pretty sure he has at least 3 to 4 days to spare, making the trainer feel confident in the fact he will be able to complete the task given to him by Kukui. However, when arriving at the local Pokemon Center, he's horrified to learn the date, realizing now that today is the day he was supposed to have collected everything. Realizing now he needs to beat the gym leader as fast as possible, panic clearly begins to set in, as Ash frantically asks Nurse Joy where they can find a gym. Gladion, seeing Ash act out, slaps him atop his head, telling him to calm down and not scare the woman. Realising that he had slightly freaked out Nurse Joy, he apologises, with her accepting the apology and explaining where to find a gym. As both trainers thank the woman, Ash races out of the building, heading straight towards the gym. Gladion, having travelled with Ash for a while, has grown accustomed to his rather loud personality, but he can't help but feel angry with his friend, knowing he's going to have to chase after him, and he's more than likely causing a scene as he runs through town. After a short run, Ash arrives outside the gym, where a weird old man stares in through the windows. But Ash doesn't think too much of it, with Gladion arriving shortly after, sternly telling Ash he needs to learn to have some grace, as running off like that wasn't exactly respectful for himself or Gladion. Ash looks towards the trainer, apologising, but explains he's so worried he wouldn't be able to keep his promise to Kukui. His body started moving before he could think. Gladion smiles slightly, saying that he could tell that was the case, before both turn to look at the gym doors, ready to walk in. As they head through the doors, they find themselves in a forest, not only one of nature, but one of smells. The building has an amazing aroma to it, and for a second, the pair can't help but find themselves relaxing a little bit, and finding themselves reminded of their mothers. For Ash, this calms the boy, letting him relax and think of home. But for Gladion, the moment that thought comes to his mind, the moment his mother appears in his brain, it sets him on alert. He quickly snaps out of this trance, allowing him to notice the beautiful black-haired woman wearing a kimono approaching them, drifting through the trees like an elegant blossom. Seeing the woman approaching them, Gladion nudges his friend in the shoulder, which pulls him out of his trance, allowing Ash to spot the woman coming towards them as well. As they are both greeted, they are asked why they are here, for a gym battle or a perfume lesson. They both look at one another a bit confused before announcing a battle. The woman smiles, introducing herself as Erica, saying they came at just the right time, as she was about to leave to teach a class on perfume making. However, she could find time to fit in at least one of them for now. Hearing this, Ash deflates a little, but Gladion, knowing Ash's current time crunch, tells his friend to take the battle. He's in no rush. Hearing this, Ash asks his friend if he's sure, but Gladion nods, telling Ash that he has some things to do in town anyway, so it doesn't affect him too much if he has to wait for his battle. He can take a look around town. Ash thanks Gladion, as Erica tells the young man she won't be ready to battle again until at least tomorrow. Gladion tells the woman he's happy to wait, getting a smile out of her as she guides them towards the battlefield. As they walk, Erica learns of how many gym badges the trainers have. Once learning it's 3, the woman pulls a slight face, as if trying to calculate something, before explaining that normally she would have a 3-on-3 with a trainer of his calibre. However, she would run late for her class if she did that, so if at all possible, would Ash accept a 1 versus 1. Ash looks a bit upset, however he does agree, telling Erica he accepts her rules. As he tries to figure out which Pokemon to use, Erica, feeling bad for making the match shorter, reveals her chosen Pokemon in Blossom, a Pokemon which matches her in beauty. Ash looks at the Pokemon, scanning it with his Pokédex, learning it to be a pure grass type. He thinks Torakac should make a debut in its first gym battle in its newly evolved state. However, to his surprise, Beedrill appears out of its Pokeball, looking ready to go. Ash and the bug share a look, and Ash can tell that Beedrill feels comfortable fighting here. Maybe it's due to the fact it has a 4 times resistance to grass, or maybe through their training the Pokemon has become slightly braver. Ash isn't sure, but he does know he's happy to use the one in this battle. So when Beedrill gives Ash a nod of approval, Ash selects the Pokemon. With both Pokemon selected, Erica gives Ash the first move with a hand gesture. Ash is happy to take this, as he calls for Beedrill to use an X-Scissor. The bug type floats like a butterfree, and trying to finish that saying, begins to fly towards Blossom at breakneck speeds. Erica, seeing this, calls for a quiver dance, as the small grass type begins dancing around happily for a few seconds, before Beedrill slashes an X along its body, before taking to the sky once more. Blossom is clearly hurt from this one attack, and won't be able to take many more, and Erica orders another quiver dance. The Pokemon goes straight back to dancing its routine. Ash, not being familiar with the move but knowing it's probably setting up something, knows he needs to prevent them from setting up too much, or whatever it is, so he calls for a poison jab, hoping to finish the match in 2 moves. The bug type once again flutters around for a second, before moving as fast as its wings will allow it, closing in on Blossom. Erica, seeing this, smiles slightly as she calls for a strength slap. Gladion, watching from the stand, knows Ash needs to avoid this attack, but the Cantonian trainer, not being familiar with this move either, is hoping Beedrill will connect with the attack first. However, Ash is not so fortunate, as Blossom moves faster than before, skipping over Beedrill and tapping the bug type on its thorax, causing green energy to travel out of Beedrill's body and into Blossom. Ash calls for Beedrill to get out of there, with the bug type doing so, taking to the sky once more. However, in a shocking twist, it's seemingly unharmed, but Beedrill can tell it feels weaker, and Ash can tell something's off as well. As he looks back down to Blossom, he can see all the damage done to it by the first X-Scissor has partially disappeared. Ash asks Beedrill if it's alright and can keep fighting. The bug type nods as it looks down at Blossom, who starts dancing around with joy. Erica, seeing Ash lost in thought, takes the chance to get some damage in, calling for a Moonblast. The small grass type starts dancing around as a small silver bulb appears above its head, and after a few seconds of dancing, it is thrown straight towards the sky, heading towards Beedrill. The bug type, still confused at why it feels so weak, doesn't notice the orb coming towards it, and finds itself on the receiving end of a powerful fairy type attack. Getting hit in the face, Beedrill is almost knocked out of the sky, but Ash calls out for his bug type, who catches itself before it hits the ground, shaking its head trying to recenter itself. Ash can tell Beedrill's losing its composure, however, seeing it shaking ever so slightly. Ash knows that Beedrill will give up in this battle soon. Clearly it wasn't expected to have this much of a challenge, as Ash now needs to figure out how to win this battle before Beedrill loses its cool. Ash starts trying to think on how to move forward in this fight. Knowing Blossom is surprisingly fast and he needs to slow it down, he has a plan, and it's going to require Beedrill taking one more hit. Hoping that the bug type doesn't lose its composure from this one hit, he calls for Beedrill to get in close and hit Blossom with another X-Scissor. Beedrill nods as it flies forward. However, Erica calls this stupid, as she tells Blossom to jump over Beedrill once again and use Strength Sap once more. As the small grass type jumps over Beedrill and it begins to touch its thorax, starting to drain the Pokemon of its strength once more and healing its injuries, Ash smiles, telling Beedrill to fire a large web of string shot on the ground below itself. Beedrill does so, firing a huge web to the floor, covering a good chunk of the battlefield below itself. With Beedrill then flying away, Blossom is forced to land in the web, sticking itself to the ground, making it unable to move whatsoever, which becomes clear to both Ash and Erica straight away. Erica calls out for Blossom to break free, but Ash, not wasting this opportunity, calls for a combination of X-Scissor and Poison Jab. Beedrill, feeling weak but trusting its trainer, does so, moving forward at breakneck speeds once more. Erica, needing to keep Beedrill away, calls for Blossom to use Moonblast to make sure Beedrill doesn't get too close. Blossom is quick to respond, firing off a barrage of Moonblast towards Beedrill. However, one thing Beedrill's amazing at is agility. The Pokemon is easily able to weave and dodge through all the oncoming Moonblasts. Within a few seconds, Beedrill is on top of Blossom. Ash knows this will end the battle, calls for Beedrill to unleash its barrage of X-Scissors and Poison Jabs. Beedrill does so, unleashing a barrage of both attacks on Blossom, which is soon unable to battle after taking a flurry of super effective blows, making Ash the winner. With Ash cheering out for himself and Beedrill, he races forward, hugging the bug, who is now visibly shaking when Ash arrives to hug it. Ash praises the bug type for being so brave, and telling it to get some good rest as he recalls it. Beedrill lets out a very proud and happy chirp, as Erica recalls Hermon at the same time as Ash, thanking Blossom for such a good battle, before he commends Ash on his battling skills. The Pallet Town native smiles as he receives his praise and his gym badge. Gladion congratulates the boy as the two are ushered out of the gym by a hurried Erica, who tells Gladion to come by soon, as if he's as interesting as this trainer, she's sure she will have an amazing battle, as she walks back into her gym to begin her perfume lesson. As Ash and Gladion make their way towards the Pokemon Center, they find themselves greeted by an old friend. This being Kukui. The man looks at Ash with a huge smile, asking how his old friend is doing. Without wasting a second, Ash and Kukui have pulled each other in for a hug, as if they hadn't seen each other for years and had been reunited for the first time. Once the hug is over, Kukui turns to Gladion, asking if they know one another, leading to Gladion explaining the night they met a few months back. Kukui nods, remembering that night, asking how the young Charmander is doing, and once learning it's not only doing well but thriving from Gladion and Ash, he smiles, happy to know a good Pokemon has found a good trainer. However, he can't help but feel like he knows the kid from somewhere else. But before that train of thought can travel too far, a badge case is shoved in Kukui's face by Ash, revealing the boy had received all the badges he promised he would get, getting a smile out of his master. The pair spend the next few minutes catching up, Kukui learning of Ash's gym battles, capture, and even Litten evolving, which brings a tear to Kukui's Incineroar's eyes when seeing its baby all grown up. Gladion sits watching the two act as father and son before Ash brings up the deal they had made, and him excited to watch his and Lance's battle, causes Kukui's face to go sour, as if he had heard some bad news, something both kids are quick to pick up on, but before either can ask any questions, a shocked expression comes across Kukui's face as he screams out that they need to be in the stadium within the next 2 hours. Ash, hearing this, screams out, asking how Kukui could forget about something so important, but Kukui responds how he isn't sure, he was just so excited to see Ash. Quickly, he brings out Braviary and a Pokemon Ash has never seen before, but one Gladion recognises from his home region, being a Vikavolt, with Kukui telling Ash to climb aboard as they need to leave now. Ash is a bit flustered but climbs atop of the bug type, before looking back at Gladion, asking if he wanted to come along, as Kukui offered him a +1 ticket, but Gladion shakes his head, saying how he's happy to watch from the Pokemon Center. Plus he needs to not only get ready for the battle with Erica, but he wants to do a bit of exploring. However, he wishes Kukui the best of luck. The pseudo-professor thanks the boy. Ash looks towards Gladion, saying for him to wait in town, he'll be back in the next few days. Gladion nods his head, saying yes, as Kukui tells Ash to hold on tight, as both Braviary and Vikavolt take off at high speeds, flying towards the Indigo Plateau. After only a few minutes of flying, the duo find themselves at the entrance of the Indigo Plateau. Ash can feel his heart beating with excitement, as he can hear the stadium already jam-packed full of people, and, more importantly, he can see inside the glass doors of this back entrance a room full of paparazzi. Ash can't imagine how excited Kukui must be, as he looks up to his mentor to see Kukui pulling a sour face once more. He's not sure what's going on, and he's really concerned with his mentor. But before Ash can ask any more questions, Kukui is walking into the building. Ash is quick to chase after him as they make their way through the door, being bombarded by paparazzi, each shouting out different questions to Kukui, some even shouting out to Ash, asking if he's the student, but Kukui doesn't stop to talk to any of them, just continuing to walk through while security keeps all the paparazzi at bay. After a short walk where Kukui doesn't speak a word, they are met by Lorelei of the Elite Four. Ash is worried about Kukui, but he can't hide his excitement. He fanboys out at the sight of meeting an Elite Four member. As Ash visibly gets excited, he asks if he could possibly have the woman's autograph at some point, getting a slight laugh out of her, who tells the young trainer she would love to autograph anything he wants once the battle is done with. Ash thanks her as she looks towards Kukui, asking if this is the young boy who needs escorting to his private booth. Kukui doesn't speak, just nodding his head. Hearing this, Lorelei shouts for an assistant to lead Ash to where he needs to go, while Lorelei tells Kukui that she'll take him to his preparation room. After all, he's got a very big fight coming up. Kukui follows Lorelei away, but he's clearly lost in thought, as Ash is led through the stadium's back rooms. After a few minutes of walking, Ash is brought to a door, told to wait on the inside for the battle to begin. He has one of the best seats in the house. Ash thanks the assistant who brought him here as he walks through the door, coming into a rather large spectator room. Ash looks around and spots 2 people, and there being about 5 seats in here. With Ash having entered the room, the 2 people already inside stare at the kid for a few seconds before approaching him, introducing themselves as Professor Bernadette and Halla. Ash, being polite, introduces himself as well, however both already knew the boy's name, expressing how much Kukui talks about the kid, getting an awkward laugh out of Ash as his face goes slightly red. as he learns that Hala is the person who taught Kukui all about Pokemon battles, and Bernadette is his mentor's girlfriend. The trio spend a minute getting to know one another while they wait for the battle to begin. Ash is offered some food and drinks while he waits as they all begin to take their seats. When Ash goes looking through the seats, he spots each of them has a name corresponding to a chair. As he finds someone assigned to himself and his +1, he can't help but notice the end chair is empty, and there's no one else in the room. As he reads the name on it, it doesn't ring a bell whatsoever, the empty chair reading the name Guzma. Ash looks at it for a second, causing both Hala and Bernadette to pull a face, which tells Ash there's a long story behind this. In the waiting room, Kukui sits listening to the cheers and chants of people here to watch the battle. However, the sound is quiet compared to the sound of his heart beating in his throat. The trainer struggles to catch his breath. While holding Incineroar's Pokeball, all he's able to think about is how he cannot lose, not while he is watching. A few minutes pass as the packed stadium is filled with excited cheers and friends speculating on winners, but all falls silence when the referee and announcer begins his opening speech. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the battle of the century. Tonight we watch two titans battle it out as they come face to face to figure out who will be our new champion. Both of our contestants are seasoned trainers, having years of battle experience under their belt, but now we must see who can become the top trainer in the Indigo League. Now, let's introduce our contestants. Up first, a trainer who comes from Blackthorn City, a former member of our very own Elite Four. He is the Master of the Skies and Tamer of Dragons. He is our current champion and the strongest trainer in all of both Kanto and Johto. Lance! As the crowd screams out in glee and excitement as a red-headed trainer walks out from his waiting room. He lifts both his hands, waving to the surrounding crowd with a smile. He exudes confidence like nothing Ash has ever seen before. He can hear the crowd screaming out his name, and once the champion of both Kanto and Johto makes it to his side of the battlefield, he stops and flaps his cape dramatically, causing the crowd to scream out with excitement. The announcer lets the crowd settle for a few seconds before grabbing their attention once more. And our challenger today hails from a region far away, coming from a small town of Iki Town in the Alola region. He has battled many different leagues, battled many of their champions. Tonight is here to claim his chance at becoming our champion. We welcome the strongest trainer to ever come out of the Alola region. His name is Kukui! The trainer walks out. However, unlike Lance, he doesn't play into the crowd. Instead, his eyes are locked onto the floor. The crowd still cheers out for him, but it's nothing as loud as it was with Lance. The room Ash is filled in screams out for Kukui, Hala and Bernadette being surprisingly loud for their size and age. Ash alongside them screams as well, trying to make it so Kukui can hear them. As the man slowly makes his way up to the platform he will be battling from, he finally looks up, locking eyes with Lance. Ash is expecting to see a smile on his mentor's face, but he's only met with Kukui looking nervous and almost unconfident in his abilities. Ash is confused, but he can hear Bernadette and Hala both speaking about how Kukui's got in his own head again. Bernadette puts her hands together, praying for her partner to pull through this time, while Hala puts his hands to his mouth, screaming out for Kukui to do this, hoping that his student can hear him. Ash only can watch as he hopes his mentor is alright. The announcer speaks up once more. With both our battlers now at their stations, I'll explain the rules. The battle will be of the single variety. Each side will use all 6 Pokemon. Either contestant can swap in and out whenever they want, and each side will only be able to use one gimmick of their choice. The battle will be decided when one side is out of usable Pokemon. Our defending champion will reveal his Pokemon first, to give our new contestant a fair shot. Let the battle begin! Lance, hearing the announcement of the battle beginning, shouts out wishing Kukui a great battle, getting a quiet response from the pseudo-professor, who responds with same to you. Lance worries something might be up with his opponent, but he chalks it up to just being hyper-focused. Lance, knowing this will be one of the greatest battles he'll ever go through, and wanting to play into the crowd, knows to get the crowd excited from the get-go, throwing out a Pokeball, revealing his first Pokemon, this being Dragonite, shocking everyone and getting a roar of excitement from the crowd, as everyone is excited to see Lance's ace early on. Kukui, seeing this, doesn't react, however, Instead, he grabs a Pokeball and throws it forward, bringing out a Pokemon Ash recognises in Ivysaur. The Pokemon comes out with a roar of its name, and Lance looks curiously at Kukui, wondering what he's planning. With the battle moments away from beginning, we cut over to Celadon City. Gladion watches the opening ceremony on his phone while he walks around the town, noticing that hardly anyone's out and about. Most people are clearly watching the battle as it unfolds. And soon, as he walks around, he finds himself stumbling across a closed-down building, called the Game Corner. The building is covered in police tape, and Gladion, taking an interest in it, breaks into the building, looking through the many different slot machines, and then spots a set of stairs leading down to a lower floor. Gladion's interested, but knows better than to just walk down there without backup. So, throwing out Eevee's Pokeball and bringing the Pokemon to his side, he asks for Eevee to watch his back. The small fox Pokemon nods as the pair walk down, finding a secret lair covered in more police tape, lots of empty cages, and many massive logos with the letter R on it. Gladion spends a few minutes walking around trying to figure out what this place is, soon deciphering that it's an old crime scene for some old gang or team or something, and the building had been swept maybe months ago. He nods knowing this will do, as he makes a phone call saying that he has found a base for them. He's going to send them the location and start making the preparation for their arrival. Through the phone, Gladion can hear someone laughing. He then begins to call out, "It's time to pack up shop! Team Skull's taking this show on the road, and we ain't stopping until we strip that loser of his title." Hearing this, Gladion tells his boss that he hasn't won the title yet, but the voice just responds saying that he knows Kukui better than anyone, and he just has a feeling that this will be the one he wins, and he can't let Kukui have too many nice things going on in his life. So, telling Gladion to make sure that the place looks pretty for when they arrive, before saying that they'll be there within the next few days. Gladion goes to speak, but the phone is hung up on him. Gladion curses. He hates how annoying they are, but he will continue to use Team Skull until he reaches his goal. He knows they're useful, and they at least help him get stronger, but then he thinks of Ash. Thinking he could leave Team Skull and maybe actually travel with Ash. They did make good progress in training while they were with each other, and maybe, just maybe, Ash can help him save his sister. He didn't tell Ash about Lily being captured. It didn't seem right. He didn't trust him enough, but maybe Ash will help him. If he's willing to help Null save his siblings, maybe he'll help him. But while Gladion's lost in thought, Eevee suddenly tackles him in the gut, knocking him out of the way of a blue draconic beam of energy, which narrowly misses both of them. Gladion looks around, spotting a pair of eyes, watching him from the inside of a cage, making a hissing sound. Gladion, seeing this, puts his arms up, asking if the Pokemon's alright, and offering it some food. And that's where we're leaving this part. I hope everyone enjoyed this, and I'm sorry there's been such a massive gap, but this part is super long for me, and I have to, do all the editing by myself and whatnot. And yeah, I just struggled getting this script to a way I liked it. I was trying to cover a lot in one go. The next part will entail mostly the battle with Kukui and Lance. However, there might be something at the end of it for everyone else. That all being said, I hope everyone enjoyed this part. I really enjoy writing for this series. I always say this. I wouldn't write for the series if I didn't. That being said, I hope everyone had a great day or a good night. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Peace out.